Hello, my name is Chris Shea. I'm a financial advisor with BPS Financial Services, and this is a educational seminar on dealing with debt. I'd like to introduce myself first. I'm a financial advisor with BPS Financial Services. I'm a retirement investment partner with my clients. I help them to understand where they're at and hopefully figure out a road to get them to where they want to go. And part of that sometimes is dealing with debt that they've incurred. So ground to cover today: signs of debt distress. Say that 3 times fast. Walking through, taking a month at a time. You're not going to get through dealing with debt overnight, but hopefully over time you can get there. We want to show you how to estimate interest and new balance to get an understanding of what credit card companies actually do. Talk about prioritizing payments, use some calculators, talk about credit scores, how they can help you out, additional resources, and what to avoid while dealing with debt. And hopefully answer the question and give you some ideas about how to deal with debt in a better way. So signs of debt distress. If you're watching this, you've probably experienced 1 or 2 of these. Hopefully you're figuring out that by the end of this presentation, you'll be able to deal with a couple of these and figure out some strategies to help you out. You might be using credit cards to pay living expenses. That's a sign of debt distress. Overdraft protection plan on checking accounts regularly to pay monthly bills. This means you're not having the cash flow and you're incurring some additional charges, double whammy. You could be using your savings to pay your bills down. Again, not the best thing in the world. If you're using one credit card to pay another sign of debt distress. And you're delaying one bill to pay another overdue bill. This is called floating, and you're just floating the debt over time. Again, a sign of debt distress. And you're paying only the minimum due on credit cards because you are strapped for cash. Any one of these is a sign of debt distress, which shows that you probably want to reach out and get some help. This is a great place to start, and hopefully we'll give you some tips and tricks to get you started on dealing with your debt. Payday loans, another sign of debt distress. We have a whole seminar that we talk a little bit more about these in detail. However, you can wind up paying 200-300% APR for a payday loan. They're very expensive in terms of the interest. It might seem like a small dollar amount, but it adds up quickly over time. Not in your best interest to use them. If you're over the limit on a line of credit, that again, you've maxed out your credit cards. Sign of debt distress. You got to figure out your finances. And if you're delaying, really importantly, medical and dental visits because you don't have cash to pay for them, that's a serious sign. You got to take care of your health first. You got a health problem, you shouldn't be worried about whether or not you got enough money to pay to go to the doctor. You've got to have that built into your budget. Next thing we want to talk about is 1 month at a time. There's a 3-step spending plan worksheet that can help you through this, right? You want to identify your income. That's number 1. Identify your expenses. That's number 2. And then figure out your expenses, how they relate to your income. Oh, wait, this sounds like a budget. Yes, it starts with a budget. That's how you start to deal with debt. Okay. You want to compare the actual income then versus the actual expenses. You've got to figure out where you're at and where you think you're spending money, and then take a look at it and say, where am I really spending money? Because it's not going to be the same. You're going to find out you're spending money in areas you didn't think you were spending and not spending in some areas that you thought you were. There's also a worksheet for the current balance, monthly payment, due date, amount paid, and date paid on your credit cards. Okay. You can go through that worksheet, keep track of it. I do it in an Excel spreadsheet because that's where I work best. I do all this in an Excel spreadsheet that I've created for myself. I can share it as well if you have interest in learning more about it. It works for me as opposed to the paper method. There's a little budget here in the corner. Talks about your housing expenses, your life, You got to live. Even when you're getting out of debt, you still have to live. You got to pay your electric bill. You got to have food. You do have to have fun. You can't just sit in the house and do nothing. You got to have a little bit of fun, but you got to figure out how to deal with your debt. Transportation, savings, and debt repayment should be part of your budget. Figure it out, factor it in, get that plan going. This can be a tricky one for some people because we're going to talk about numbers, but we're going to walk through it step by step. Okay. This is estimating interest and new balance on a credit card. And we're going to do it with an APR of 27%. Yes, that's a high interest rate. I get it, but they're out there now. All right. You calculate the APR, divide by 12 to find out your monthly interest rate, which in this case would be 27 divided by 12 or 2.25%. You move the decimal point 2 digits to the left. So 2.25 becomes 0.0225. Okay. Then you got to look at the balance after the payment you just made. So say your credit card was $500, you paid $12.50. You're at $487.50. Okay. You take that $487 and you multiply that times the 0.0225 to get $10.97 for your new amount of interest. Add that back to the current balance, $10.97 plus $487.50, $498.47 is the new balance. That should be what it is. This is how credit card companies charge you. They look at your ending balance, they charge you. They look at your based upon the 1/12 of your annual percentage rate. You can check the balances to make sure your math works out, but you can start to do this and you can start to look to see how far out it's going to take you to pay down a credit card if you do minimum monthly payments. And you can also see the impact of adding more and additional funds to that. When you do have debt, you want to prioritize your repayments. There's a couple different ways to do it. Highest balance, highest interest rate, lowest balance. And they're all going to impact how much interest you'll pay over time. Different people have different strategies and things that they like to do. I'm a big proponent of the highest interest rate first. Why? It's the one killing you the most. If you got a 27% credit card APR and a 17% APR credit card, the 27% is costing you 10% more than the 17%. I'm all about paying off that highest interest rate first. Doesn't always work for people. It all depends upon where you're at mentally. Some people like to attack the highest balance first, put more money to that because they feel better knocking down that biggest amount. Other people like to do the lowest balance. Why? You get rid of a payment. The trick to that, though, is say you were spending $50 a month on the lowest balance. You got to then roll that $50 into something else to start to pay off other debts in addition to just that first balance to make it happen faster. That's what people like about the lowest balance is they get rid of one bill, they can focus on a couple others. That can work. But again, you're going to want to figure out how much interest you're going to pay over time. Okay. You want to find this information out, write it down, put it in a spreadsheet, put it on a Word document, put it on the charts that we showed you earlier, write it down, find out what your APRs are, and attack your debt. Don't do it with just hope. Do it intelligently. Do it with smart goals to get you to where you want so you're no longer in that debt predicament. Calculators. There's a lot of calculators out there. Here's some websites on utilizing calculators. Restructuring your debt. Smart Money, smartaboutmoney.org. There's a whole website there debt for accelerated payoff. Okay, restructure it, figure it out. Some credit cards offer a 0% transfer for a period of time. That can help you get out of debt if you can manage the monthly payments. Transfer a few $1,000s over, figure out what the monthly payment is. In 12 months, you've paid off a debt with a small transaction fee, usually 2, 3, 5%, much better than 15, 17, 20%. You pay it off every month. At the end of 12 months, whatever the period of time is, you've had a loan that you've now knocked off a big amount of debt. Making extra payments. There's a whole calculator on that for extra payments, and you'll be able to see what can happen. Your credit card companies even put this in their bill. They'll have, if you pay an additional $25 a month, they'll show you how much interest you can save. Look at that, understand it, take advantage of it, pay off more than the minimums. It's in your best interest, not in the credit card companies. Then how long will it take to pay off a credit card? Again, smartaboutmoney.org has a link on there. How long will it take to pay off my credit card? Take a look at it. You can plug in different numbers, the APR, how much you're putting towards it, minimum, minimum plus, and see where you're at. Find out, use the calculators. And if you don't want to do this by yourself, call a professional. We'll help walk you through it, give you some assistance to help you figure out how you can pay your debt faster. Credit scores. This is part of debt, okay? When you have higher debt, it negatively impacts your credit scores. Creditors use information and mathematical formulas to figure out what your credit report and credit score is. Payment history, bills on time. So if you're having debt problems, you're not paying your bills, your credit score is going to go down. They're going to also look at the amount owed. That's the second biggest one. So if you got a huge amount owed, that's a negative. It's going to bring your score down. Okay. So it's going to look at your credit mix, new credit, and length of credit history. If you get a credit card and you pay it off, don't just close it out. Keep it. It'll actually keep your credit score being better by not closing a large number of cards immediately. You may want to do it over time once you've paid off all your debt, but you want to be able to keep that amount owed ratio lower if you can. It does look better. Again, there's 5 sections on the credit report. We've got a whole presentation on credit scores and understanding them. You're gonna have credit card information, header, who you are, public records, if you've got any foreclosures, any major things against you, collection agency information is going to be there if you're in collections, and any inquiries made to your account, aka when you go out and ask for new credit. That's all going to be there. It's going to show any past due amounts of 30, 60, 90 or longer, charge-offs, all of it's going to be there. You do have a right to get it, freecreditreport.com. Go check it out, find out what's on your credit report. If it's wrong, we actually have another presentation, like I said, on credit, where we show you how to go about changing that and hopefully getting it overturned. There's additional resources out there. Talk to a financial advisor, talk to a debt counselor. There's local, state, federal government resources, community resources, National Foundation for Credit Counseling, nfcc.org. Lots of links and resources out there to help you deal with debt because it's a challenge. There's a lot of things out there showing you that you shouldn't be dealing with debt in a manner. You should be out having fun, doing things in life. Yes, you should, but you got to do it responsibly and within your budget. I know. Get back to that B word. Something you got to do. Avoid the quick fix. Pawn shops, payday loans, title loans, tax refund anticipation loans, debt consolidation loans. They sound great. They can be good, but usually not. Pawn shops usually charge a very high interest rate, payday loans, 200-300% APR. Very high rate. Banks are better. Title loans. You can lose your car. You can lose your house if you can't pay it back. Be careful about that. Tax refund anticipation loans. Again, maybe you get $1,500 back. You pay $300. That's 20%. There's better ways of getting funds out there than paying 20% right off the top. And debt consolidation loans, again, they can sound great, but you got to read the fine print, talk to someone, see if it's in your best interest. There may be better things out there for you. Again, there's a link here for nefe.org about debt consolidation research. Check it out, Google it, look for the research to find out what the true facts are. So a lot of times these companies are trying to take advantage of you when you're in a desperate situation. Now remember, when you deal with debt, you are worth fixing it. Learn from your past mistakes. Commit to being debt-free. Clients I work with that are debt-free, their lives are so much better because they don't have to worry about funds that they have to pay for. Your mortgage, maybe a car payment, those are part of everyday life. It's the big things like credit cards that put a lot of stress on you. Once you commit to being debt-free, you create that budget, you spend less and you save more. That's the reality for most people. Most people will spend less once they realize what they're spending it on because they realize they don't need it. It's just wasted money going to something that they really, really, really don't need or want. They figure out better ways to spend their money and save more of it for important things. So next steps. Reach out, get you the 3-step spending plan worksheet. Complete the worksheet. Seek assistance. There's a lot of resources out there. Check them out. Go for it. Set up a savings account. If you don't have one, set one up. Put some money in there every month, even if it's just $10. Start off by paying yourself first. Again, we got a whole seminar on that. And most importantly, breathe. Take a breath. Realize that debt, it's just a problem. It can be a big problem, can feel like a huge one. It's just a problem. Work the problem. Figure it out. Put it down on paper. Work on a solution. You can get yourself out of it. Sometimes you might need help, but there's a solution to your problem. Breathe easy, get some help. So hopefully you've got some tools now in dealing with debt. You've learned, got to start with a budget. You got to figure out what your APR is. You got to figure out what your interest payments are. You got to figure out where you're at first and then attack it through a plan and then work the plan. If you got any questions, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to answer them, go through your particulars with you. And I'd love to hear back from you if you got any evaluation on me and the training to improve. Always interested in getting better. So again, my name is Chris Shea, financial advisor with BPS Financial Services, and hopefully I've helped you dealing with debt.